Hello and welcome to the Wellness Rock Show with your host, Stephanie Deal, where we dive deep into women's hormonal health, mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Together we will discover how God designed our bodies to consume proper nutrition and how that applies to the rest of our lives. Here we will unravel all of the education and knowledge that you need to get your body and your hormones back to where they need to be. As a disclaimer, I am not a doctor and I do not provide medical advice. Please speak to your primary physician before starting or stopping any medications. What is up? Welcome back. Happy day you're listening to the podcast, because I don't know if you always listen to them on Wednesdays. But welcome back, and I'm so happy for you to be tuning in with us today. Today we're going to hit on something that is very important to recognize within yourself as you're growing and evolving into a new being. So what that necessarily means is that you're taking your next step into who you're supposed to be, but in order to get from one point to another point, you're going to have to grow through things. You're going to have to grow through trauma. You're going to have to grow through pain and different circumstances in order for you to become the person to withhold everything that you're going to withhold in your life. So one of those things that you may have to work through and grow through growing up in your journey is healing and fueling that inner child. So this is not typically something that I really heard a lot, growing up or anything like that. I didn't really know necessarily what an inner child was, nor did I even think that that was a thing. But as I continued to grow in my personal development journey and in my journey alone in life, I realized that we all have this inner child that has been neglected or that needs extra love and attention, because there may be something in our lives that happened when we were younger where we didn't necessarily get that, or where we have to grow and give that to ourselves now because of certain things that happened in our past. So what does it really mean to acknowledge your inner child? It really involves recognizing and accepting things that have maybe caused you pain in your past. So, that inner child, the reason you do things has a lot to do with how you were raised. So it goes back to that kind of nature versus nurture type of thing. And yes, nature is a huge part, but I truly believe that the nurture aspect, who you're around, what you're around, who you see and what you do, really comes from how you were raised. So therefore, your inner child has things that, our parents did the best that we could with what they had when they were teaching us growing up. By any means did I have a bad childhood. I did not. My parents supported me the best way that they could have supported me, and they did the best that they could do with what they knew what to do. My parents always told me they just wanted to do better than their parents did for them. And I truly believe that that is what they did. Not to say that everything was perfect in my childhood, and things come up even to this day as a 23-year-old woman that I'm that goes back to my childhood. That is a childhood trauma. That is something that I experienced. So listening to what that inner child has to say. You may notice feelings of anger, abandonment, insecurity, anxiety. These are all things that could possibly be from something that occurred during your past. So it's important to really listen to that and listen and see those triggers, not to just let them happen. Because if something happens in your life and it causes you anger, or for that abandonment feeling to come up, that's coming up for a reason. So just being really self-aware and understanding where those feelings may come from, so that you can work through those feelings so that you can get to where you need to get to. I've listened to a lot of podcasts, and a lot of the women who I hear talking about this stuff, every time that there's a certain thing that gets brought up from their childhood or a past experience that they have to work through, just kind of like, if they accept that and surrender that and know that they have to grow through that, it allows them to get to that next place quicker. So if you're willing to, not really push it under the rug and say like, oh, this is just me, knowing that, okay, this may have been caused by something that occurred previously. What can I do now to change? What can I do now to become that next version of myself? So one thing I really wanted to get vulnerable with you guys today is that I personally struggled with abandonment issues. So I got those feelings from like going from one parents to the next parents. My parents were separated. So that feeling of abandonment kind of came up because I felt like I didn't have the support from both parents. Even though looking back, like I said, my parents did the best that they could. But as a child, you learn different tendencies, you see different things. And I don't remember everything from my childhood, but I know that's where that comes from because I've done the work. And when you're doing the work and certain things get brought up, you know where it comes from. So, and like, okay, a certain topic gets brought up and you start to get anxious or feel a type of way about something, you can then know, being really self-aware with yourself, know that, okay, this is triggered by this is an area that I need to work through because this is where I have this stronghold that's holding me down, not allowing me to step into this next person. So if there's this stronghold that's keeping me in this area, I have to, as a woman, I'm talking about myself, and this is something that you can do as well, recognize that that's something that you're going through in that moment so that eventually, over time, you can break that stronghold and realize that that's not a part of you. That's not your identity. That's not who you resonate with anymore. And this is acceptable to do. Like, it's really uncomfortable to recognize it in the moment because it's something that you've always said like, oh, this is just who I am. This is just how I do things. But you don't always have to be that person. You don't always have to do those things. That's where that accountability and self-awareness comes in as well. So, recognizing these issues can stop other issues from arising as well. So come back to the abandonment issues that caused some codependency issues as well. And I'm just being real and honest with you guys, because the more I'm real and honest with you guys, the more that you guys will be able to relate with me, and I'll be able to help you on a deeper level because you'll understand that I understand. Because you're not in this alone, and you're not going to be the only one alone on this journey. There's millions, billions of other people who have suffered from childhood trauma, who have suffered from and need to heal their inner child. So this is something that's really important in order to get you to where you need to be as a woman as well. So things that you can possibly do for that inner child. You can write yourself a letter. Write yourself a letter that as if you were your inner child. So you're writing your letter as if you were an inner child and writing about your experiences today. So you experience something, look at it from the perspective of your inner child and be able to write yourself a letter. Write yourself a love letter. Write yourself a forgiveness letter. Write yourself a letter that will allow you to either forgive or love or realize who you really are. Because sometimes we get these thoughts that of comparison or hurt or pain or frustration, and those thoughts can lead us into not seeing us as we truly are. So writing that letter could be a good thing to do. Bringing back the joys of your childhood. So going and getting that ice cream before dinner type of thing, or going to the park and swinging on the swing, dancing, playing games. These are all things to fuel that inner child. I personally love to dance. Like and not like, actually, I'm not gonna lie guys, my dance moves have gotten so much better, especially after going to Afro Nation. Like, a girl can bop. But I love to just like jump around and like dance, especially when it comes to like Disney Channel hits, like growing up, like 2006 to like 2000, probably like 2012 maybe, like the Sweet Life of Zack and Cody era, the iCarly era, Victorious era, Hannah Montana, High School Musical, Camp Rock. Like, TV today does not compare to what it used to be. Like, there are no shows out there. Maybe it's just because I'm older. But, like, I could go back and watch High School Musical and still be in love with it. Like, but, like, when those songs come on, it fuels my inner child so much, because when I was a child, I used to spend hours, and when I mean hours, like hours, on, my grandma had this deck, and I would just put in my MP3 player. I had all my jams, my Kids Bop jams, all of the jams that I just said. Put my earbuds in, you know, like the ones that like connected to the MP3 player. Yeah, the MP3 player. None of us have that anymore. I think I still have mine. It was like this little box that was like this big. If you're listening to the podcast, you can't see, but it was like this big, and it was pink, and it was the best thing ever. But I used to listen to that thing for hours, and I would just dance and put on a whole performance for my imaginary people that were watching me in the grass. But when those songs come up, it fuels my inner child. So doing things like that really bring back those feelings of joy is going to allow you to have more joy in your life overall. And another thing that you can do is talk to a therapist. If there's deeper issues that are coming up that you know that you cannot necessarily heal within yourself, it may be best to speak to a specialist who's studied in that area, who has the knowledge and went to school for it and is an expert in that area. They could probably help you better than you can help yourself if you're realizing that it's not an issue that you can really help within yourself, but you really need to talk to somebody. Do not be afraid to reach out. You are not weak for reaching out. You are not a loser for reaching out and getting help. Like, it's necessary if you want to be able to grow and you want to be able to become a better person. These are all things that are necessary. We look around and some people stay in the same position their whole entire life. Do you want to be that person when you look back on your life in 5 years that you have not changed a single thing and you're still living the same life that you lived 5 years ago? No, I don't. And I don't think if you're listening to this podcast, you want to either. I believe that you want to be doing something different with your life in the next 5 years. I believe that you want to be doing something different with your life in the next 1 year. And in order for you to be able to do that, is not just taking the action every single day, but it's breaking through these strongholds, getting rid of this pain and trauma that has been caused from childhood or just past experiences. But really being able to fuel that inner child and heal that inner child and love that inner child, that helps boost your self-esteem as a person. You're able to do more things. You're able to be more confident. You're able to talk to more people confidently. You're able to have that confidence to start that business. You're able to have that confidence to start that podcast. You're able to have that confidence to talk to the person. You're able to have that confidence to get in that relationship, to create that opportunity, to start that network meeting. You're able to have the confidence to do all of the things that you want to do. But if you have this stronghold that's holding you back because of something that has caused you pain, you're not going to be able to step into that person. So this was a short, quick one, but I felt like it was really important, especially with what we've been talking about lately. You know, I really just want to the 4 pillars of mental, physical, spiritual, emotional. We're going to hit on them all the time together. So this one is super important because we need to be able to fuel and love ourselves first before we fuel and love anybody else or anything else, our businesses, our relationships. But you have to have that self-love first, and that comes with healing that inner child. So the Bible verse that we really wanted to hit on today is Galatians 3:26, for you are all children of God through faith in Christ Jesus. So when we read that, what does it really mean to be a child of God? It means to have the Almighty Protector over you at all times, who has made promises to us, to keep our peace if we lean on him, that he will never leave us or forsake us.